Today, I want to welcome you as we're going to be addressing some real timely and important topics. Do you remember when this whole Corona thing started and how we felt? And it seemed like every day something new was coming up and we didn't know what to believe or how to feel about it. Maybe those feelings are still there. I know you get that a lot. I'm David Maxwell with Lake Point Advisory Group. And today we're addressing that incredible timely topic, which is how do we protect our mental and emotional health during COVID? Now, Lake Point Advisory Group is a retirement planning and wealth management financial services firm, but we host these events on a variety of topics that we hope our clients will find useful. So to have the discussion today, we're very glad to welcome Janet Johnston with us. Janet is the clinical director at ChristianWorks in Dallas. She is a Texas board certified clinical social worker and supervisor. She is specialized for over 30 years with working with children and teens and adults and families through things like adoption or grief support and mental health issues and awareness. So she's practiced as both a medical social worker in hospitals and in home healthcare settings as well. So she supervises the daily operations over at ChristianWorks Clinical Services, and she continues to do counseling to our clients today. And I really want to welcome Janet. Thank you for joining us today, Janet.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
I'm excited. This is, a topic that I've been talking about with clients, I feel like nonstop for, it feels like 6 or 7 years, but I know when I look back at it, it's only been really since that February, March timeframe. And so today,
6 months.
It's 6 months. It does feel like years though, doesn't it? So today we're going to, cover some of the most common questions that I've been getting from people. And I also want to make sure that everybody understands that they also can use the chat button over there on the screen, and you can make sure that you have the ability to be connected with us, and we can get some of your thoughts and feelings and questions on this. And kind of here towards the end, after we've gone over some of these common questions, we'll be going through some of those specific questions that you guys might have asked during this discussion. So make sure you open that chat box so I can see what it is that you're wanting to know some more about. But to start off, Jen, it's kind of like this, right? I mean, we've all been wearing our masks, we're keeping social distance, we're wiping all of our space down all the time. I'm washing my hands to my favorite 20-second song 2 times to make sure that I get the right amount of time in there. I'm doing all this stuff physically that I'm supposed to be doing, but what about emotionally, mentally? What should I be doing to protect myself in those regards?
I think it's important, first and foremost, that you be conscious and aware of your own emotional and mental state. If you recognize that you're more on edge, you're more irritable, you're feeling tired and down, you're not sleeping well, you can't find enjoyment in things, you're feeling disconnected, you're overwhelmed. And for some, they may have increased their alcohol use just to try to relax and those kind of things. But those are all signs and could be signs that you need to maybe stop and focus more on some self-care initially. And I think that's where you start. When you start recognizing, man, I don't feel like myself. And part of it is the change, part of it is the time that we're living in, but it is 6 months of what we thought might be 2 weeks. And so, as we're getting further and further into this pandemic, it is impacting and affecting people emotionally and mentally. So I think first and foremost, you be aware of your own, because you know how you normally act or react, and the things that irritate you and the things that put you on edge. But there's a lot of things that you can do, I think, to take care of yourself. And some of those are very personal. For me, I like to go out and walk. And we have a neighborhood that we can do that. And it's helpful for me to get out. Sometimes I put my earbuds in and I just kind of walk and talk, or listen. I don't usually get on the phone. I'm usually listening to music or something that relaxes me. But there are times when I walk without those, and because we have a lot of people in our neighborhood walking and we are socially distancing,
Right.
but even just acknowledging and having that interaction and interface with people that I might not have ever met before, but they're in my neighborhood. And so we can chat about anything, the weather, but just having some of that interaction. But for some people, I would encourage you, if your sleeping is interrupted, work on that. Maybe go to bed at a regular time. Don't take your devices in the room with you to try to help you to go to sleep, but try to just go in and sleep and try to get some good sleep. Eat regularly. They seem like very simple tasks, but those can help take care of you. You might need to take a little trip, take a little break. And that's a little bit challenging too. Where do you take a trip to right now?
Sounds like that walk on a daily basis is almost like a mini vacation away from
Yes.
things, with the music or the birds out chirping or whatever. You could have a little getaway there, huh?
Yeah, you absolutely can. Just getting out. I would say, and we'll talk a little bit more probably later on about interaction with other people, but reach out to people, in particular people that encourage you. We all have those people in our life that sometimes, they're Debbie Downer. I hate to use Debbie's name, but that's not what I'm saying. I am saying find those people that lift you up, that build you up, that always encourage you, that have that joyful mood that
we
is
know
kind
who
of
those people are too, don't we? We all
We
know
do.
that person. Yeah.
We do. And
Okay.
I think those are good people to try to reach out to on a regular basis. I think it's important to not necessarily watch the news all the time. I know a lot of people, that is what they do.
Right.
And I tend to want to keep up with the news some, but that can also be very difficult for our mental and emotional state, because it just kind of puts us on a little whirlwind there. And so take a break every now and then. And
Again, there's so much going on,
There
and
is.
so much information that it's hard to take it all in sometimes. One of the things that has really changed is the mask, and whether you're going and running into the gas station, or whether you're coming into the office here, or really anywhere, we've got this mask required thing going on. And I hear people talk about, I feel it too, that suffocating feeling of wearing the mask, and maybe sometimes a little claustrophobic like it, and anxiety goes up, or you see people without the mask, and all that. The mask has become this big deal. What are your thoughts on this mask? What can be done about those feelings about these masks?
I have not gotten to a place where that is instinctual, that I put it on without seeing somebody else, or, I've even gone up to the door of some place that says, don't forget your mask, and had to think, oh yeah, I got to get back to my car, or pull it out of my purse. Yeah.
Right.
And even at the office, I'm thankful when I'm in the parking lot that I see somebody else with their mask on, because it reminds me, okay, put mine on before I walk in the door.
Yeah.
But I am very much a believer in the mask. But I also know I am one that in the past has had, claustrophobic feelings. And so I do recognize that. I do think there are some masks that are better than others from a standpoint of being able to breathe. And then
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, my biggest challenge is actually my glasses. And if you are a glass wearer, you know what I'm talking about, because certain masks, that just when I'm talking,
Fog up.
they just steam up. And it's not because I'm angry. It's just because I'm talking. And so I think what I would encourage is, one, to try a different mask and see if that might be more helpful to you. Now, it's, I think you do still have to follow the recommendations. You had mentioned earlier, don't use it as a chin strap.
No chin straps, right.
Right. I mean, they've done research to show the importance, and I've seen some things and read some things about how important it is to cover your nose, almost more so than your mouth.
Yeah.
And so, you do have to follow those guidelines. But I would also say if it is really causing you problems, find a place and space that you can take a break from the mask.
Mm-hmm.
In my office, when I'm here in my office by myself, I do not wear a mask, and it is a nice break. And so even if you're in a crowd, if you're with a group, and you just need to take a break, then you need to leave the room for a minute.
Right, we've been doing the same thing. In here, we call it a mask break when I'm having meetings with a client.
Yeah.
Because it gets hot. You feel, almost that sweating sensation, or you don't like it. And we take a mask break where we're just sit back, we're a good 6-10 feet away from each other. And we just pull it off for a second and collect ourselves, and then come back into that. And it's new. I'm not going to lie to you, it's a new thing that we're doing. But it's, I think it's important. I'm getting a lot of questions popping up here too, Janet. I think everybody's starting to feel like, that they're feeling it. So
it is overwhelming.
It is. One of these that's coming up, this is an important one too, is about, those important relationships in your life. I have a big one. My mother still runs her business, which means she's still interacting with the public. And I have a daughter who is immune compromised. And so for us, we had these driveway visits where, they stay in the car, but keeping those relationships connected, that's an important part of balance in our life, to keep our mind good. I haven't hugged my mother in months because she's so afraid that she could hurt, my family, because of unknowingly. How do we keep that good balance with those really important people in our life?
Well, I think a lot is what you just said. I didn't see my grandkids for probably close to 3 months. And except to that my kids would drive by, and they'd wave out the window. And so the first time that we were in a position that we felt, okay, we're all comfortable enough to have them come in, my 4-year-old grandson was like, we get to get out of the car. He was just kind of in shock because he knows about the virus.
Right.
But it is so important to continue that communication. And when you're not living with them, in particular, you do need to find ways to keep in touch, whether that be through FaceTime or my family, which we've never done this before, but there's 7 kids in my family, my siblings.
Yeah.
And we made the decision that we were going to do a Zoom call once a week.
Okay.
And so, because a lot of my siblings, they're older than me, and they are really isolated. And so we meet every Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock. We're on, and I have an uncle who is elderly as well, and he and his wife get on. And so it's just a way for us to, sometimes we talk about nothing. Sometimes we, talk about our kids or grandkids, but it is just being able to see each other's face, hear the voice.
Just being connected, it sounds like.
It is.
Commonality that we've always had, which was just talking to each other or whatever, huh? It's that simple.
It is. I will tell you that it is for me, I'm not a super huggy person, although I do touch, and I like to, touch and hold hands and that kind of thing. And so that is hard. That is hard to not do that. And for my grandkids, it was all I could do to not just reach in those windows and grab them, because I wanted to love on them and kiss on them. And it was hard. But I do think, you have to kind of keep in check and keep reminded from a safety standpoint why you're doing what you're doing. And like you said, your mom would never want to compromise your daughter. And so, keeping that in mind, I think helps us to kind of keep our balance there. But you do have to stay connected.
What about the ones where we can't? Like I'm seeing, and I have it in my own family again too, I have an uncle who's in a facility, and we can't go in. We can't say we're doing these window visit things, but it's Texas. It's 105 degrees outside,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so it's so odd.
It is.
And it hurts. It's angry. I mean, I just saw one of these questions pop up from you guys, and thank you for the chat that they find themselves being angry all the time, and businesses are taking their temperature before they're allowing them to come in, or things like that. I mean, like if you have that barrier between normal life, but that wears on us.
It does. It absolutely does. I guess I come back to it really, when that anger comes up, you really do have to keep in check, because some of that reaction and response is our own, because we're frustrated and we don't like the changes that are happening that we can't control.
That's right.
But the reality is those changes and the temperature and that kind of thing are for a reason. And they're for your protection, they're for your loved one's protection, and anybody else that's coming, that you're coming in contact with. And so, for me, it does help me to kind of step back, take a breath, literally, and say, okay, I'm going to respect this at this point in time. It's not my desire, it's not my choice. And if I could do something different, I would. But right now, out of respect for this business owner, for whomever, so be it, and I will do that. It is challenging, you talking about the like people in nursing homes. I have a dear friend who I've known many, many years, who's been like a grandmother to my kids, who is in a nursing home right now. It's an assisted living part where she is, but she doesn't even get to get out of her room. They don't even gather together anymore for meals and that kind of thing. And so it has been very isolating to her. And I think the thing that has helped, her kids have done the window visits like you're talking about. And she knows that that's hard. I know some facilities actually have purchased like microphone type things, so you don't have to be on the phone talking, but they have a system that you can actually talk through the window and they can hear you. So that's beneficial. But also, I think to encourage them, like my friend said, I started coloring. And she said, I just had so much downtime that my mind, it was not good for my mind to just sit and only think about the virus or think about not getting to see my loved ones or people coming to visit me. And so she said, I started coloring, and she said it helps. So I think there are things, some people journal, some people do crossword puzzles. It really is a time for us to help and be creative in the things, to maybe try this, see if this might help, Mom, see if this might help, to help them to stay connected and to keep their mind.
Teach them the techniques that we're figuring out on our side that they may not be figuring out on their side, that they can use, because if it's calming to us, it may be calming to them. I really love that idea of the speaker thing. I mean, there's so much together with Bluetooth technology and all that stuff. I wonder, I'm going to have to go look at, I'm going to make a note in a second of the idea, because my uncle who's behind that window, and it is hard. We have to be on the phone, and then he's got his on speaker, and it's so strange. I wonder if there's something I can find out there that would be kind of make that barrier seem like it's going away a little bit.
That's the other thing. I would encourage, if you do have somebody in a nursing facility or assisted living, reach out to the administrators and just talk about what might be possible to do, even something like that. But is there something that you could do, or something that they could do that you could contribute to, some kind of an event that they could go around room to room and
how do we help?
Just brighten up the residents' days. So
I had thought of, why can't somebody be wheeled to an outdoor patio? And I know some people can't go out in that heat, but maybe do an outdoor patio for a few minutes just to have that no barrier. But I understand that then you're carrying people into a common area, because we had a discussion, like you're saying, And I was upset because I thought, well, I've thought of this and they haven't thought of that. And,
Yeah.
you know, that feeling
Yeah.
that we get sometimes because we don't understand completely, and understanding helped me feel better about that we couldn't do something like that with Steve. So, yeah, I think just like you said, communication so far has been a big, like, common theme that you keep telling me about. It's just communicating a bit. So I love that. So here's again, there's more coming in about elderly parents, because a lot of us end up taking care of our parents.
Yeah.
And we've made that conscious decision to do that, but now it's like taken away from us, and it's mentally abusive almost to ourselves to say that we can't do what we committed to do. How do you get past that letting yourself down, or you know, that feeling?
Well, I would say that communication is a big piece of that, even communicating with your loved one. And, you know, if they are in an Alzheimer's unit or something like that, that you still communicate with them. They might not remember, you know, the next time, but you say it again. But I think every time you meet with them, you let them know, oh, I so wish that I could actually be there and give you a hug right now. You know, they need to hear that. They need to hear your endearment, and it's okay to express your frustration. It's kind of like with your kids, you know, you're modeling for your kids. You know, I do get upset sometimes, and I'm trying to do better. I'm trying to, you know, but with your parents in that kind of a setting, it's similar. We used to talk about when my parents, as they aged and we had to get some care for them. I talked a lot about how the roles change. And you do feel, you know, part of this frustration that you're expressing is you have changed to the parent role somewhat, you know, over your parent. And they are more the childlike. And so you have to recognize it and maybe treat it as such, like you would your children. You would go in and you would explain, and you would share with them, oh, I so wish we could do this. And, you know, I'm looking forward. You know, that's another part. You know, I think to be so stuck on where we are right now is not necessarily healthy. I think we can talk about times past that were great. We loved being with you at Christmas time. You know, wasn't that fun? And talk about different things with them, and talk about the future. What you hope. Man, I am really hoping by this time next year, we get to do blah, blah, blah.
Make plans.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. As you're talking about that, it kind of made me think too that I bet if we had that communication with that person, because we hold ourselves to kind of a higher degree of scrutiny sometimes, that the other might just be there and say, listen, I understand that you can't right now. I get it. And you don't have to hold yourself so accountable to it. Don't beat yourself up so much over this, because I can't say how many times my mother said, you know, this too shall pass in life, and that you can't be so upset over things that you can't control.
Right.
But we find ourselves holding on to that. Again, boy, that communication is a big key, it sounds like. So another question here that came in is, and I've heard this one a bunch in these last 7 years that I just mentioned earlier that I've been feeling about this, but it's, you know, the clients have been planning for sometimes years on what they're going to be doing after they retire, or that great family trip that they were going to be taking, and now it's all on hold. And there's a lot of feeling of, I may never be able to get back to it. Or, you know, we waited for 5 years to do this and now it's gone, and it's angering, or it's, I don't feel like I can do it again. You know, there's this uncertainty. What do you say about that?
Well, there is uncertainty, and there's no way to take that away right now, because that is the time in which we're living. Is there's not clear cut, this is when it's going to be done, this is how it's going to be when it's done. But I think with a retirement mindset, you know, you do continue to plan, you do continue to hope. My husband and I were supposed to take a trip, actually September actually of this year. And we were so looking forward to it. And we, you know, can't do that obviously where we were hoping to go. But, I still am thinking, okay, when will we get to do this next year? And it may look different than what we had originally planned, but my plan and my hope is that we'll still get to do that. I think with retirement too, I have a sister that's about to retire this next month. And, she is already planning, not necessarily trips, but what she will do to fill her time. Because from a mental health standpoint, she knows right now she's working and she's scheduled in all these different things every day. And she's very analytical and, organized. And so she knows that that's going to be a hard place for her to be when she stops. It's just kind of a stop. And so she is planning, activities. And that's what I would encourage, find ways that, again, I want to say find ways to volunteer and help others. And that may be by making calls. That may be by sending cards. I feel like I sent some letters the other day in the mail, and I was thinking, man, it's been a long time, because normally we're shooting a text or we're shooting an email, but we may need to go back. I mean, we have boxes and boxes of my parents writing to each other, when they were first married and my dad was overseas, and different things. And so we don't do that as much anymore, but those things are beautiful. And there are things, right. And there are things that you can do. Yeah, it is. And getting a letter, I mean, even at the nursing home, for them to actually get something that they could look at and re-look at.
Yeah.
But I do think it's important. I think I had told a story to you before, but my father-in-law was an engineer, and he knew when he retired that, he'd go crazy unless he was busy doing something. And so, I mean, he had his little small little notepad that he kept in his shirt pocket that had his to-do list for every day. So he knew and could feel productive, and that he knew what he wanted to accomplish. And there was something on that list every day for him to do. And so that's, some of the encouragement that I would give is recognizing, okay, there's only certain things you can control right now, but you can control some. And you can control being productive and getting things done. And that may be helping, a honey-do list, but it may also be, helping others or sending notes, finding a way to help someone else.
So I might not be able to travel to Hawaii or travel to Spain or travel to Oklahoma, but I could go get a plant and put it in the front garden that I know is my wife's favorite one. Or when you talked about the letters, it reminded me a few years ago, one of my clients gave me a great idea. They said, for your anniversary, David, mail your wife an anniversary card. Don't just say anniversary, hand it to her, because it coming in the mail that says this special little feeling to it.
Yeah.
So I like that. So another one that has come in was, and this is really big, is the feeling that we're all isolated. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. And not being connected anymore. Mm-hmm. Tell me an idea here. Besides, we talked a lot about connection, but how do we get past this internal feeling of I'm so isolated from the world now?
And again, I think that is you having to recognize, okay, what can I do to not be isolated? Because that feeling is overwhelming. And most of us, with the exception of like my friend that's in the assisted living that can't really leave her room, most of us have the ability to go outside, to even have a, interaction. I mean, you talked about being with a client, but, social distancing, even going to dinner or having dinner in your backyard with somebody to come, maybe in another month.
Great idea.
With the weather. But I mean, there are evenings when you can get out and sit and say, hey, why don't you bring your chair over and let's just sit and visit a little bit. I know for a lot of even younger families, that is what they have done with their kids, to not necessarily have play dates, but to have opportunity to just sit and you be on this tailgate and we'll be on ours. And, to be able to visit, because the only way to not feel isolated is to do something to not feel that way. And so I think you actually have to be actively looking at what can I do that keeps me in my comfort level. I have somebody that I work with, and they were trying to make the decision about school for their child. And I said, the biggest thing that I think you have to decide is what you are going to be comfortable with and what you're going to be at peace with, because you don't want to make a decision and then just be the whole time feeling guilty or, scared or whatever.
You really do.
And so you have to, I think it's the same way with isolation. I think you have to recognize, okay, I've been by myself and I have to have some interaction here. And so not everybody may be comfortable with that as far as an in-person visit, but some will, and you can take the precautions. You can say, I'm happy for us, to distance. We had some relatives that had come to see their kids, and they were like, well, we'd love to see you. And it was like, okay, what is your comfort level? And so we said, we'll have a little play date. We'll do it early in the morning, and you guys come and be outside in our backyard, and we will wear masks if if we feel like we need to do that, or, keep our 6 feet apart and be together and get to visit. And so we did do that because we were comfortable with that.
That's exactly what showed up in the chat box from someone commenting saying that they've decided to get together for breakfast with the grandkids because it's cool outside. It's still 90 degrees at 9 o'clock at night, but it's 70 in the morning. So they're doing breakfast outside with the grandkids in the back, and everybody's kind of having that connection time because as they know, they're a little worried with the kids going back to school that, they could come up with something from being at school. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Getting outside and not in that, what are they talking about? The closed air conditioning, recirculating. If you're watching the news, and don't be in air conditioning, and don't, wear this there's so much out there. There's so much information. Okay, so another one here that's coming in is, this is very near and dear to me right now. Another problem with this lockdown has been death, and that people are feeling when someone that they cared about had passed away, that they weren't able to be a part of that celebration of life in the same way that they had in the past. And there's a specific amount of maybe guilt that's coming up for someone not being able to do that or be a part of that. What do you think about that?
So I so feel that and have felt that. We've had several friends and dear to us that have passed during this time of 6 months. And one of the things that I did with one of the first people that we experienced was I thought, okay, I can make a meal, or, what are some of the things that I would normally do when I first heard about it? And I just decided, okay, I'm going to make something and purchase some flowers, and I'll leave them at their doorstep, and I'll text them and say, I just want you to know I'm thinking about you. And so I do think there are some things that we can still do that we should do, because I am very much a believer that it is important. Having both of my parents have died, both my in-laws have died, and I know what it meant for the friends that flew to Nashville or to Albuquerque for those services. So I hear that and I feel that, but I do think there are things. I think one of the things that I heard too that was so sweet was somebody had said that they were having a graveside. They were not having a funeral, but they were having a graveside, and it was private, but they had put it out there. And so a group of friends said, we're going to drive by and we are going to let them know, whether it be hold a sign or drop some things of flowers or what, as we go by the graveside at that time when they're having that service, so they know we are here with them.
People care.
Yes. But that has been a huge thing. I'm thankful that it appears that the hospitals now are allowing, especially when they know somebody is close to death, someone to come in and be with them, because that just kind of tore me up, because I had the privilege of being, in particular, with my dad when he took his last breath, and that was just a sweet time, and I was thankful that we were able to be there and be, for him to know we were there, but it was probably as much for us as it was for him.
That hurt my heart a lot, knowing that people were passing alone.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't necessarily a COVID related thing, but we weren't able to be with them,
Mm-hmm.
during it. That hurts me. So, and being a person who has that happen regularly because of clients passing, it's pretty important to understand how I can get through that personally too. So you said a lot there that meant a lot to me, Janet. You mentioned something earlier, and I thought about a conversation I had yesterday, and it has to do with puzzles, right? So the client I was talking to said that she and her mother, they live together, and puzzles has become a lot of what's going on. What other kinds of like hobbies or crafts have you seen taking off that are a good relaxing point for people that take some time so you can get through the day, but also is got value there for what you're doing?
Yeah, the crossword, my dad used to do the crossword puzzles, and part of that was to keep his mind going, and then like my friend that's in the assisted living, she said she just started coloring. She said it just helps me, and you have something pretty at the end, to frame or put up on the refrigerator or whatever you do. But I was thinking, we haven't done it as much, or at least our generation, I don't think, but my kids have done, is it called Words with Friends? It's a telephone, it's a
phone game. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought, that is something that you could do with someone else. It's kind of, I don't even know how to describe it. You may know how to describe it better than me, but they come up with, figure out what the word means. And it's kind of almost a contest,
like Scrabble. I thought the words that I think about, and I haven't thought about it or done that in a couple of years. It was a big thing, but
Yeah.
Words with Friends, almost like a Scrabble game where you'd pass back and forth. And you say that, I think my mom, who fits that age category of being aged, but still working, she must have 15 of those things going on at the same time now that you say it. 15 different games that she's playing with friends.
Yeah.
Words with Friends. Big of a name. So there's a lot of things we just kind of open our minds to it a little bit, huh? And ask other fans what they're doing.
Right. And I do think, especially if you have children at home, play some games, that's, we don't do that as much because we have outside, other activities, and, you can't go bowling right now, or you can't do certain things that you might've done as a family, but there are some fun games that you can play. And what's that one that it's heads up, it's that you have to get
the card.
Yes. Yeah. There are some fun things that you can do together. And I encourage that, because I think that helps us. That helps us to see joy and to find joy, because that's what I think a lot of people are really struggling with, is we get so focused on the negative and on what we cannot control that we can't see some of the positives and some of the joy that is right there in front of us. We're just missing it.
Here's my question, Janet. We're on Zoom and we can see each other. If I've got my card on my forehead, I'm gonna have to turn my camera off so I'm not cheating as to what I'm seeing, right?
This is true.
This is true. So maybe somebody who doesn't know so much about Zoom, let's just play the first time and win that game until they figure it out. So, well, this is so helpful to me, personally, as well as because I'm having a lot of these conversations. I know a lot of people haven't been able to log in. We got a lot of people said, I can't be there, but we're recording it so that we can hand it out to others. Or, if you're sitting here watching us and you're going, man, I would love to share this with my neighbor or my friend or my child, you're going to have that ability to be able to share that and share this video as we send it out for everybody, right? But one thing I also want to make sure of is that everybody knows that if I haven't had a chance to answer your questions yet, which another one, I love this one, and we'll come back to this idea. Tell me about this came from Chris, but Chris wants to know if there's any books or websites that you've recently kind of come into that would really help with more ideas on this topic.
You know, there are a lot of organizations that are putting out, we are very connected with the grief support world and groups, and we have some stuff on our website, you know, that it really is specific to COVID time. But there is an organization called the National Alliance of Grieving Children that also has a lot of resources out there for people to learn. They've got some webinars that are available to the public to listen to and participate in. But most of the organizations are really trying to reach out and knowing that the places where people can access are their websites. And so I would encourage you to look at, if there's some that you are familiar with or participating in, go ahead and look and see what they have out there. But there is another organization called Judy's House, which is out of Denver, that also has quite a few resources. And then there is and these are more grief related resources, but the Dougie Center, which is out of Portland, Oregon, that is another, and you could just Google that and their site will come up. But there are a lot of resources out there. There's even some of
grief, you know, whether I feel grief that I can't do something, or so it's kind of got the same commonality of feeling through things.
This is
reading things could help you identify how you're feeling about it. And so, and I want people to know also, Janet, that they can reach you if they want to have some more individual opportunities to speak with you, Janet, and they can ask me for the information, or they can visit your website, which is ChristianWorks.org. Okay, so www.ChristianWorks.org. You can email Janet at jjohnson
with a T.
J Johnston. It comes out slow and fast. J Johnston.
There we go.
At Christian-Works.org.
And I guess one thing that I would mention, if you feel like, you know, we started with how do you help your mental health, and if you feel like you are overwhelmed, you know, there is when to know when to reach out for counseling or for help. And I think that is a kind of a telling sign. If you are not able, if you cannot function, you know, because you are so overwhelmed by stress or sadness or depression, that is a time that you may want to reach out and get some counseling. And it doesn't have to be, you know, long-term, but you may just need some help and a place to do that. We are doing telehealth, and as are many organizations that provide counseling, but through our ChristianWorks program, we do have telehealth, so you don't have to come in. You know, you can do it via Zoom or actually one of the other systems that provide virtual counsel. And so please feel free to call us if you want. But I do encourage you, if you do think that you just are so overwhelmed, you need some help, or feeling so isolated and just don't know what to do next, then that's a time, that is a time too, that maybe the self-care isn't enough for you. You may need some extra help in that. So I do encourage that.
Well, Janet, I can't thank you enough. You give me so many great ideas. I'm going to go make a bunch of notes and probably watch this video like 3 more times after we get it sent out so I can think about more of it. But again, thank you. I really appreciate you helping your time with us today. And I know I've got clients telling me thank you here on the chat for your help coming out to us today as well. So with that, we're going to end. And if you need us for anything, you're always welcome to reach out. Catch us at lakepointadvisorygroup.com, or you can give us a contact call at our numbers 214-771-3363, or just send us an email. Thanks again, Janet. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye.